Hey, folks. Today is Monday, March 31st, 2025, and I am Red We Met. And I'm very motivated to do this story today. It's not just a story, it's some history. I've been watching people. I see a couple of you in the audience here that have made videos on Tony Spilotro. And I can tell you, there's a lot of people that they say things that they read or that they heard. They read them in the newspaper, or they heard it in Bill Rummer's books, or somebody else's opinions of different things that happened. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that at all. And I was looking at it so much and saying, this isn't what Tony really was like. And somebody asked about other people I hang out sometimes in Mike Burns' room in Facebook, which is the Past and Present News, Chicago outfit, Past and Present News. And I watched several people make comments. And I was thinking to myself, I should just let all this go, because you can't teach these young people. And when I say young people, I mean even people in their 50s that have read this stuff. They're young to me. I got 26 years on them. That may not seem like much, but it is. Just think about when you were 26 years old. Anywho, the way it the way it goes is like this. If you were born in the same neighborhood and lived in the same neighborhood as somebody else back in the 30s, then you were okay. You know why you were okay? If you're in an Italian neighborhood, you were definitely okay because you didn't leave the neighborhood. Or if you did leave the neighborhood, it was just do something. But generally speaking, you didn't leave the neighborhood. You ate in the neighborhood. You slept in the neighborhood. Your business was in the neighborhood, unless it was crime. Tony was born in 1938. No, I didn't know him then. According to Frank Collada, he met him when he was out there in the streets, shining shoes. And that was a very popular thing back in the day. And people would, fight for their own corner. It's mine. It's my location. People come here because they know I'm here, not you. And they would stay. So they must have had their altercation. But later on, Tony would, he was shoplifting. He was, way before I knew him, he was shoplifting. He was stealing. He got in a lot of fights. And he had a reputation as a kid as Tough Tony. However, as time went on, as things progressed in his life, Tony was kind of taken in by the 42 gang. And it was one of those things where his mentor, when he was younger, was probably somebody that he looked up to. I know one of the people he looked up to was Sam Giancana. But another one that I met that he looked up to was, this is 1968, was Milwaukee Phil. Phil Aldericio was his guy, so to speak. If he had to speak up for anybody and say, I'm with somebody, he'd say, Phil, I'm with this guy. He's my guy. Now, Many times in my life, I used to say, that's my guy over there. And then it'd be Marshall Cafano, or it'd be Joey Lombardo, or somebody like that. When they know you're with somebody, nobody bothers you. And that's what happened with Tony. Now, Tony was tough anyway, but he learned his sadistic skills from Milwaukee Phil, who was really sadistic, very sadistic. Probably, they just don't talk about Phil that much. Very few people talk about what he does or what he did or anything like that. But what happened was Tony got his a good example of that was the M&M murders. And Casino and all these movies have made people think, oh, this is what really happened. That isn't what happened. Anyway, what really happened was he learned his sadistic skills from Milwaukee Phil, who was also a thief, an older thief. And he was just like 22, 23, 24. And he was a thief, Tony. So he was stealing. Well, a good example of a sadistic thing was at 24 years of age. He'd been stealing with Phil and what's his name? Joey Lombardo, Frank Collada, Vincent and Cerno, the Saint. They were all part of the same crew, the Grand Avenue crew. They would eventually become. But they called them the West Side crew at that time. If you asked where they were from, they wouldn't say Grand and Ogden. They'd say the West Side, period. It was later on that it became Grand Avenue crew. So anyway, 1962. Do the math, folks. He was born in 38. How old was he in 1962? 24. It was when the M&M murders took place. No, I wasn't around. I was around, but not around Tony. Did he put him face down in the vice? Well, way before all this pandemic and everything happened in the United States, back when I was a young man, I was told that Phil did it. Phil put the man face down on the table and put his head in the vice. Tony held him, as several other toughs were there and held him. He was part of that crew. But Chucky Nicoletti was kind of Phil's rap partner, so to speak. That's what we called each other in those days. Who's your rap partner? And we also talked about running mates because we ran around together. But that was his deal. Now, later on, when Sam DiStefano, or DiStefano, was in prison, we called him Sammy D. When Sammy D was in prison, he met Paul Ricca. And he borrowed $100,000. That was a lot of money back then. Paul Ricca taps Phil on the shoulder and says, or taps Phil on the shoulder, and he says, send somebody to keep an eye on this guy. Who do they send? Tony. Tony went to keep an eye on and also collect the money for the outfit. Sam didn't go directly to anybody. And as Frank Collada said, Sam couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. He was a lot of talk. And he had a lot of money. And there were a lot of people that would do his bidding. But personally, he couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. That's the way it was. So Robert Murphy. Yes, he did. And that was back in, that started like in 1949, I believe. I believe he was just getting out of prison then. One of his prison terms. 48, 49, something like that. But at any rate, what happened with Tony was he was assigned to watch out for Sam. They knew Sam was crazy. Tony had a level head. I never saw Tony raise his voice, scream, holler. And you know something? All the people that I've known have never even said he screamed, hollered, or raised his voice, because he didn't. It didn't happen. Did he murder people? Yeah, he was there with Danny Seaford. He was part of that crew that went out to murder Danny Seaford. Matter of fact, they were all part of the same crew. Joey Lombardo was there. Frankie Schweiss was there. That everybody that was there was part of their crew because they didn't use people outside the crew. That's because they trusted them. Where are you from? They were from the same neighborhood. Where do you know this guy from? I know him from the neighborhood. They wouldn't say where the neighborhood was. People knew. That's how it went. So anyway, the legend, the German was there also at that murder, and he was at several others. But anyway, while the M&M murders were taking place in 1962, or before, they were just moments before, there were two men stopped by police officers in the Hitmobile. And that would have been Milwaukee Phil and Chucky Nicoletti. They were detained. It wasn't until later that the bodies were found. It just wasn't until later. But Tony was responsible for that. And that's where, if you want to call it, where he got his button, where he got made, that's where he got made. So, Milwaukee Phil winds up going to prison. And while he's in prison, Tony is doing the juice loan thing himself, making a ton of money, kicking up to the people, the outfit, the people above him. And while he's doing that, he kind of gave up on the robberies. That was petty to him. But he was growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And when the time came, he was tapped on the shoulder. Phil died in prison. That was 1971. And just before he died, Tony was tapped on the shoulder and told, go out to Las Vegas. Now, I knew him then, before he was told to go to Las Vegas. And when he went to Las Vegas, I met him in 1968. When he went to Las Vegas, he would go back and forth, back and forth. He'd fly back and forth. Used to fly into Midway at that time. Sometimes he went into O'Hare, but not that often. He was flying with Irv Weiner to Deming, New Mexico, on money they got from one of the loans from Las Vegas. I think it was the one from Circus, the ones they got. But they had their own 707. Irv Weiner and Tony Spilotro had their own 707. And it was all custom on the inside. It was gorgeous. I saw it. It was a great, beautiful plane. I was impressed. Just a young kid. Anyway, that's where he started. He changed. He went up an elevation after 1962. I would imagine between 62 and 68, when I met him, he'd done a lot of things by then. Murder, enforcer, thievery, and he kicked up, always kicked up. He was reliable. Nobody had to go to him and say, hey, give us our money, because he was quick to bring it in and say, here, this is what I owe you. You know, after a while, nobody counts. People don't count. If they come in and say, this is what I owe you, that's what they owe you. That's it. At any rate, there are so many legends and stories about Tony Spilotro. You can look all over the internet, and you can, when I look at them, it disgusts me, because you get some twerp who's from New York, who's read a couple books and decides he wants to put together a YouTube video, because that's what he does. Most of them on New York people. But then he does one on Tony because he was in Casino, because he stood out. Do you think, I guess I shouldn't ask you what you think, because most of you people probably just do what you read. And now I'm telling you something, so you're getting it from my mouth. Is it true? Is it accurate? I'm in a better position to judge. I was there. You weren't. If anybody was there and you're listening, please leave a comment. Leave your name. Don't hide behind a moniker. I'm not hiding behind a moniker at all. That's my name. That's my picture. This is me. At any rate, that's what happened. When he got out to Las Vegas, I never knew anything that he did. Really, I didn't know anything about it. I do know that it was in the late 70s that Joey Lombardo approached Frank Collada and said, I hear you're going out to Las Vegas. Because Tony had asked Frank Collada to go out there many times, several times that I know of. And he was in and out of prison, jail, all kinds of things. But it sold Spanky's, a disco he had on North Avenue, bar, whatever. He never had the license in his name. But anyway, he sold the place. Got to stop, folks. Hello from Diane Hansen. Well, Diane Hansen is one person you could ask. She knew Tony. And the truth of the matter is, Diane and I have talked about it. And she doesn't remember anything, not even hearing of it. And you would have heard of it. It would have been different. Hi, Diane. If you're watching, how you doing? Diane, I'm going to be 76 in a couple days here. And Diane's got to be in her 80s now. She is in her 80s. Nice person, though. We knew each other way back in the day. So anyway, hugs back to you. Hugs back to you, dear. God bless you. 82. Diane is 82. Okay. Anywho, Tony goes out to Vegas. And Collada goes out there with him. Collada wasn't out there that long. Not like Tony. Tony was there from 71 through 86. Granted, he screwed things up a little bit out there, but he was there a long tenure. A very long tenure. So, it seems that what happened, I didn't know at the time. I'd only see Tony when he stopped by. But at any rate, if he did stop, it was different over the years. I didn't mark it on the calendar. I didn't mark it on the wall. I didn't even report to the FBI. But as time went on, I think it was 70, 79 when Cloud was out there or went out there. 80, 81, 82. Okay. Wasn't long. And they were having problems anyway. I totally believe what I was hearing at the time and what I heard later on, that a lot of things were happening in that crew. Tony's crew, run by Collada, his lieutenant, who brought most of the people out there. Told him, come on, you'll be with Tony. Now remember, Sam Giancana had been exiled. He went to Mexico. That was in what, 60, 64, 65, or 66, somewhere around there. So he didn't have Sam's help. So what happened was Frank Collada flipped on him. No big deal. He wasn't upset about that. What he was upset about most of everything was, I mean, he had to go to court and everything, but Oscar Goodman, he brought him through all that. Tony was never convicted. I think he was convicted of one thing on income tax. He had to pay $1. That's the only thing he was ever convicted of. That's it. Now, he had a couple cases going when he died or was murdered. He had several things going. One of the ones was the skim from Las Vegas. He was arrested on that and charged. He was arrested on an income tax evasion charge also. There's several other things that he was arrested on. Okay. I think I have most of the story down. I may add to it here, but I wanted to get that part out. We're going to go to some questions or comments. Bill Crawley, Diane, I think you mean was always full of good information. Yes, she's a good source of information. She was around back in the day. I believe she told me it was somewhere in Las Vegas, or not in Las Vegas. It was just outside of Las Vegas in the mountains where she used to see Phil, Milwaukee Phil. He would go up there back in the day. Diane didn't let any grass grow underneath her feet. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. God bless you. And you're going to turn 40 on Friday, youngster. Last Friday. Okay. Well, even so, on the 2nd, which is Wednesday, I will be doing a show with Adam. So he says, we're scheduled for it. And that's the way that's going to go. Keith Elton, Tony never gave you up after you told him you were an informant. Stand-up guy. He was a friend. He was a friend. I didn't tell many people that, but I did tell a few, and they were people that I trusted. And I didn't tell I'm an informant. I said I'm a mole for the FBI. And we were drinking at the time. I wasn't drunk, but I told him I wanted to see how he'd react. Also, there were certain things I didn't think we should talk about. And after I said that, Tony, I think there's something you should know about me. And he was drinking away. He said, yeah, what's that? And I said, I'm a mole for the FBI. Real serious. And he said, well, I guess that means we don't talk about some things. And that's the way it was. It's never mentioned again. Did he forget it? I doubt it. I don't think he ever forgot it. He never gave me up, though. He never told anybody about me. Tim Hunt. No, I never saw Tony in Las Vegas, ever. I didn't see him when I was there in 1968. I knew he was there, but I don't know. I just never saw him there. I saw Johnny Roselli there. Never saw Tony there. John Ramsey. Hi, Red. I have found the older I get, the faster time seems to go by, and the years seems to go by fast anymore. I see. Okay. Jim Magnifici, how you doing? That's okay. There's no problem coming in late. Don't be late Wednesday. Wednesday at 4 p.m., Adam and I are doing a show. Yes, BSJ, we had a true friendship, a very good, true friendship. That's the way it was. Chris, 328. You're welcome, Red. Yeah, I did a lot. Nice live stream that day. I plan on getting an autographed copy of your book as a birthday present to myself. I hope you enjoy it, Chris. I really do. I believe this is from Diane. She's using Pam's account. Diane, did you steal Pam's account or are you just borrowing it? I'm trying to read this. Why enjoy hot dog stands? Why'd they have the interest in the hot dog stands? Irv Weiner. He was making them, selling them. And the money that came from that funded that whole thing was from the skim. That was from the skim. And that was off a loan that went to Las Vegas, but Chicago handled the affairs. They were in it for a couple points. So they had $1 million off of it. That's the way it was done. I think it was $1.3 million, if I'm not mistaken. Correctional officer for lockdown. Good afternoon, sir. How you doing? Now, this is, folks, this is Diane talking. Tony and Joey used to visit my hot dog stand. Yes, they did. And I remember that's when you were out in East Chicago, Indiana. I remember it. Or Chicago Heights, either one. You were at both locations. That was a long time ago. We talked about this. Thank you. Pam, Diane, whatever you're going to call yourself. Red, I'd give anything to have been able to hang out with Lumpy Rutherford. Okay. Chris, thank you, Red. I hope I will too. I think we're talking about my book. I love listening to you. The stories about the old days, your friendship with Tony. It was a unique friendship, very unique, extremely unique. Okay, Pam, you're her niece. Okay, you have to be Diane's daughter then? And she's using your account. Dawn's daughter, not Diane. Dawn. Gotcha. I'm figuring it out little by little. Play on names, folks. Dawn's daughter. I remember Dawn and Diane. They were always helping each other when they were doing those things. Corrections officer for lockdown. Goldblatt's on State Street used to have some of the best sausage and meat you could buy in the loop. I don't doubt it. All that food down there was really good back in the day. Was Irv involved with the Bozo hot dogs? No, Irv owned Weenie World, the hot dog wagons. And that's just the way it is. Diane had a hot dog stand that was made by Irv. And actually, those hot dog stands back in those days, they were owned by Irv and manufactured by Irv, but Irv had some carpenters, and one of them was Danny Seaford. He was building the hot dog stands back in the day. That was a long time ago. Smooth operator. Since we're talking about talking hot dog stands, are there any stories at a stand? I believe Diane had her sister. Okay. Her sister, Dawn, was taking care of the hot dog stand, getting ready to open it. And Tony came out there with Joey Lombardo. They used to run together. They were rap partners way back in the day, especially when Phil got upped. But what happened was, when they got out there, Dawn told them, "We're not open yet." Just like that, just like any other customer. "We're not open yet." And they said, "Okay." And they left. And she told Diane, her sister, when she got there, she said, I told them. And she said, "Well, why'd you do that? You could have told them, you're going to be a few minutes or something like that." And she said, no, she didn't. So that was between them. That's the way it was. That's odd, Tim Hunt. I have never put ketchup on a hot dog in my life. I just didn't do it. But then again, I'm from Chicago. Bill Crawley, you remember Diane telling that story? Yes, she did. She's a fabulous lady. She really is. Thank you, Bill. So anyway, that's the story of Tony. And fact or fiction. And anybody that's got any questions, give them to me now. Well, there's somebody that actually knew him that's going to tell you, instead of something that's written by Bill Romer. Bill Romer did nickname him the Ant. And it wasn't for Anthony. He was called a piss ant. Romer was a Marine. That was a very, very common term to use. I know Bill Romer and I spoke. We never spoke about that. George Wilson, I wish you would do an in-depth look at Big Sam, the owner of American Jukebox in Franklin Park. He operated the Villa Pizza. You know why I'm not going to do that, George? Because I didn't know him. I'm not going to give you guys bullshit. I'm not going to do that. And that's why I'm really doing this today, is because I'm tired of all the ones that are out there. All the videos, you can watch a lot of them. They'll tell you this, they'll tell you that, they'll tell you this, this is the way it was. That it wasn't that way. Joseph, hi, Red. Is it true that DiStefano was a Satanist? Sammy D was a Satanist in his basement. And I think I'm the only guy alive now that was ever there. But in his basement, he had an altar and had a black cloth over it. And he had a pentagram up there. And he worshiped the devil. And he would even tell you he worshiped the devil. He would never use the word Satanist, but he would say, I worship the devil. He was a very weird man, very dangerous man. Tim Peroni, why was Tony eliminated? Well, first of all, his clout was gone. That's one main reason they could do it. Was he boisterous? Yes. Did he throw his weight around? Yes. Did he ask for permission in Chicago to do things? Not always. Sometimes he did things without asking for permission. Major things. Sometimes other people got him in trouble that worked for him. But the truth of the matter is, he was having an affair with Lefty's wife. That's a fact. I was told by a couple people way before he was killed that he really screwed up on that one. Tim Hunt, who else did Tony hang with? Well, in the very beginning, it was Incerno, Lombardo, Collada, Milwaukee Phil, Irv Weiner, Frank Schweiss. They got along very good together. And not too many people got along with Frank. I think because he knew that I knew Tony that well, that's why we got along very well. That and the fact that when Joey went to prison in 1982, I believe, Joey reached, or we were all at a meeting, and Joey says, take care of that kid. He did. Thank you, George. You understand. Peace. Peace, buddy. You know, I don't think you, Quantum Riz X, what you don't like is the discrepancies with Nick Calabrese's testimony about a lot of stuff. Did you really read his testimony? Did you really read it? Or are you getting a secondhand information from somebody who's doing a YouTube video about what Nick Calabrese said? I remember his testimony. I couldn't give you a word by word. And here's your answer right here. No, just in books. And that's my whole point. Somebody can say something, write it down, whatever. And right now, let's face it, there isn't many people out there that have a lot of integrity left. It seems like everybody hides behind a moniker. That's just the way it is. I don't think that Calabrese gave the best testimony either. But I do know this. This is what he testified to at Tony's death. I didn't know what happened. I heard a version from Frank Schweiss, who sat in my living room in 1986 and told me what happened. But according to Nick, he was picked up by in a van and taken out to Bensenville. Didn't know where he was. The van didn't have windows on it. They just picked people up. They pulled inside a garage. After they were inside the garage, they got out. They went downstairs. They waited. I believe he testified that he was ill. He thought that perhaps somebody was going to hurt him. He went in the bathroom, got sick, and came out and waited. Tony and Michael were upstairs, and they were having a couple drinks with the boss at that time. Later on, they were brought to the stairs. Michael went down first, and he had a little 25 automatic he got caught with. But as he got to the bottom of the stairs, Nick Calabrese testified that he grabbed his legs. He grabbed Michael's legs, while Louis Eberly put a garrote around his neck. Now, Eberly only lived about a year after that. He died in 1987. He only lived about a year after that. He had cancer of the pancreas. He was still getting around, though. It's Frank Calabrese's book, and Jeff Cohn is who you're talking about. And Jeff Cohn, I saw a lot of when Jeff Cohn wrote that book, I called him because there were some things in it that were wrong. And he apologized to me on the phone. He told me that these were things that he just picked up from newspaper clippings. And he used to write at that time. He wrote for the, I believe, for the Chicago Tribune, if I'm not mistaken. So, I wrote a book, and I can tell you a lot of the books are not that accurate. A lot of them have slanted opinions. Bill Romer did it all the time. Jeff Cohn did it. Frank Calabrese did it when he wrote his book. He really didn't write it. The Zimmermans wrote it. We had two authors that wrote that book. Now, he gave his story, and I'm sure they tried to do it as accurately as possible. They were hired by Paul Pompian. But nobody hears that part of the story. Well, some of you people do, but generally people don't. That's the way it was. Tim Hunt, did Tony drink a lot with you? Only when he swallowed. We both like the same scotch. Hi, Victor. Did he know an associate with Albert Taco from the Heights? Taco had been out to Vegas, yeah. He was a powerhouse. I knew who he was way, way back when Jimmy Couture was kind of running things out there. And who's the other guy out there that his brother was chief of police? I forgot. Somebody'd have to refresh my memory. William Price, I read your book is outstanding. Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate that. Bruce City, good to see you too, guy. You just helped. Thank you. Al Pilato. I knew when that's when Caesar was in power out there. Well, before he got into power, Caesar ran the Chicago Heights, and his brother was chief of police, Al Pilato. Michael Hacker, which scotch did I drink with Tony? We only drank one thing, and that was Royal Salute. It's a 21-year-old Scotch. Look it up on the internet. That's what I prefer. Tony did too. It's good Scotch. Holman Sanders, how you doing, Holman? Good to see you, buddy. You know, I don't know, Quantum. You'll have to ask him. I have no idea. Greetings, brother. Spirit of justice. Good to see you. Salute. Anyway, folks, that's what it was all about. And when I look, it's not just, probably not Tony, anybody stood out, Sam D. Stefano, anybody, Sammy D, any of those people that really stood out in the outfit as vicious killers. You're going to hear say the worst, the most damaging. You know what I have to say about Tony? He was the best dressed. He was the best dressed. And at that time, I emulated him. I wanted to be like him in some ways. I didn't know about the bad things. We didn't sit down and talk about a murder. We didn't do it. Any news on outfit movies? No, none at all. But I will tell you on Wednesday, Adam and I are going to be on YouTube here. We'll be on my vlog. And he picked a subject. I think it's Chucky Nicoletti we're going to be talking about and his connection to the JFK mess. Corrections officer for lockdown. Red, your insight is awesome. The way officers conducted themselves in the jails, prisons was definitely enforced too. Things were different back then. Victor, thank you for your time. You're so welcome. I wanted to do this. It's something I wanted to do. Hey, Dave and Wolfie, how you doing out there? I really wanted to get this out there. And I hope some people see it and they don't get the wrong idea. I was thinking about this when I was watching Bud Gibson's channel. He does a thing on Vietnam vets, and I'm a Vietnam vet. So occasionally I'll watch it, but I don't want to be on a show, and I don't want to talk about things. And those things I just don't want to remember. It was kind of rough back in those days. But I was thinking about it, and he said something that I've heard before. It resonated through my mind. That he was putting up history. And that's what Frank Collada did. He put up history. Was it 100% accurate? Not always. Generally speaking, pretty damn accurate. So I want you guys to have an idea of some accuracy. That's why I did this. I do things for strange reasons. Big Tuna 815. Okay, JFK has been a hot topic again. I wonder if any mob names will be in the release documents. There are. There are. And I think they'll get pronounced later on. Right now, they're just saying mafia. They're talking about Johnny Roselli. They're talking about a lot of other things. But no, I'm sure there'll be a lot more. Tim Hunt, we got 63 plus in here. He says, hit the like. Please, folks, hit the like. I'd appreciate it if you just hit the like button if you're in here, if you can. Some people are on devices where they can't do it, but definitely appreciate it. It helps to get this video around. Scott H. Hey, Red, I'm driving home to Florida. I'm on I-95 in St. Augustine. I thought you were doing it. I thought you lived above St. Augustine. St. Augustine is down south. Hmm. I thought you lived on the Space Coast, Scott H. Big Tuna says he's got 40. I've got 44 likes. Thank you, Big Tuna. Now I've got 50. Thank you, Dave. I know, but if I don't know where you came from. Would you go down to Miami? Oh, maybe you went to Key West. I don't know. No, it's not that far, but it's below it. It's not above it, Jim. I used to drive that all the way along I-85 up and down when I lived on that side. Smooth operator. I thought Titusville was above it. It's south of Augustine? Okay. I know that. Yeah, you go up to Georgia. I hope you had a good trip, guy. And I hope you beat the rain that's coming. It rained here earlier. I'm way over west. We're getting a geographic plane here. Titusville, south of St. Augustine. About an hour and a half. Okay, folks. George Wilson, hit the like button. Every time I watch the show, you hit the like button. Thank you. William Price, why was Chicago a mob hub? I don't know. I really don't. I know there was a lot more action there than there was in Detroit, or there wasn't in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or there was in St. Louis. Not that they didn't have their action. There was just a lot more people, a lot more going on. That's the way it was. Why was Chicago a mob hub? I don't know. The people that Tony lived there, but the people like Sam DiStefano, Sammy D, his family came from down in Southern Illinois, and there was just more action in Chicago. So people from Milwaukee, people from St. Louis, people from Illinois, they gravitated towards Chicago. That's just the way it was. Big Tuna 815. You were just going to say the same, Red. More people, more vices. Yep. And more income. Bill Crawley, I love listening to you, Red. You mentioned a lot of names that I remember hearing as a kid. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Johnny Sins, I've not seen you before that I remember. Welcome and thank you. Lake Mission, probably, yeah, they used some of the stuff that came in. I was told now, I'm not positive about this. I was told by some old timers, an old man by the name of Avi Ferboda. He was on Rush Street. And when I met him, he was really in bad shape. But Abby said that back in the day that Canadian whiskey used to come over the border from Canada and it'd go through Detroit and it would go on the river, around the lake to the river and be distributed in Chicago. So its original origin was, like many things that came through Detroit, like cars that were made there, they used to take those on barges and bring them to Chicago across Lake Michigan. It was very, the lake had a lot to do with it, I'm sure. I know it had a lot to do with the town being there, period. Yeah, that's another thing. Politics were all corrupt and it made it perfect. It did. Because if you came from a small town, people would usually catch on to your act real fast. So you get lost in the city, in a city where people threw around a lot of money and they bought their way out of problems. I know. I bought my way out of problems, and I'm a lot younger than they were. And the Joliet River. I'm not forgetting it. Joliet's another place too. A lot of things happen in Joliet, and I got a kick out of it because that's Will County. And Kurt Hansen, he lived in Will County for some time. He lived on US 30, and he used to call. He was in. Used to call the sheriff there and talk to him on a regular basis. Chain Weaver, how you doing? How you doing, buddy? I finally get here and it's almost over. Christina Morris. Thanks, Red. Always appreciate your show. Thank you, Christina. Thank you for stopping by. Yes, correction officer. Lockport, Joliet. We call that the Lockport Joliet area. I don't know what you call it, but that's what we did back in the day. So I take it there's no questions in that anybody has about Tony Spilotro, but I finished up my goal. Tim Peroni says, who gave the order to take Tony and his brother out? The order actually came from the man that was in charge at the time, was Joe Ferriola. Joe Ferriola is the one that told everybody this is the way to do it. Now, there's rumors that went around that said that Joya Yupa is going to prison, or when he was going to prison, turned around and said, they have to go. They caused him to go to prison. No, I don't have any recipes, and I did not. I did not. I did not cook. Whereas Tony buried at Queen of Heaven Cemetery. Hey, Brad, have you got on out on your boat yet this year? No, I sold my boat. I don't have the boat anymore, guy. I had a lot of fun on it though. If I want to go on a boat, I'll call somebody. I know several other people that have boats. I'm sure they'd let me use theirs or go out with them. Hey, Brad, have you heard anything about the new movie that's supposed to be called coming out about Tony? It's called Legitimate Wise Guy. No, I haven't, Christina. Tim Baroni, you heard the same. You're echoing what I said about Yupa. I take it. That's another thing. Other people, the way they pronounce names. Maybe I'm not pronouncing it the right way, but I've been doing it the same way for the last 50 years of my life. Better than 50 years. It wasn't Di Stefano, it was Di Stefano. Sammy D. It wasn't anything but Spilotro. That's the way it was. Names were just the way it was. You know, I don't know if Tony Accardo did approve it. I'm sure he would have, given all the people that were involved. And when I look at it now, Tony, it's he caused a lot of problems, more than I knew about. A lot more than I knew about. Maybe it's good that we had some distance between us. Maybe it's very good. Red, is there a story that you've never told us before about Tony? There's a couple, but I'm not going to tell them. It's not going to work out. Anyway, thank all of you. I thank you all. It's been a nice hour. And anybody that's watching this is going to, you can go ahead and make a comment, even though it wasn't in the live comments. Tim Peroni, your wife corrects you about pronouncing Sammy D. Di Stefano. Di Stefano. Now, some people say Stefano. We have a bunch of things going on here. People asking questions. What role did Choi, the clown? You didn't even say the clown play. Choi Lombardo stayed in trouble. I don't know what you're talking about. Christina Morris, see you Wednesday for your birthday chat. No, that'll be Thursday. I'm going to have a birthday. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for chiming in. Diane is using Pam's name. Talk again soon. God bless you, dear. Good to see you stop by. Thank you, Jim. Chris, bye, Red. Have a great day. The rest of your day. I'll see you in Adam on Wednesday. God bless you, Chris. Okay, guys. It's Red We Met out. And I'll see you Wednesday. God bless you.
The combination of the videotapes and Ouimet's testimony resulted in the conviction of 2 men on extortion charges. One of them was Frank Schweiz, known in syndicate circles as the German, a feared mob terrorist and a suspect in a number of gangland murders.
He was described to me by other outfit individuals as the most feared hitman. And as he said to me, my reputation precedes me, son.